Hello and welcome to a short tutorial on something called parallel phrasing and parallelism. Now, we've got 4 examples of parallel phrasing or parallelisms here in these memes on the screen. We have in the top left corner Neil Armstrong's famous line, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." In the bottom, you can see John F. Kennedy saying, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." In the top right, we've got the national anthem. "God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen." And then in the bottom right, one of the most famous opening lines to a novel ever. It's Charles Dickens from A Tale of Two Cities. "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times." Now, these are all called parallel phrasing because what parallel phrasing means is a writer is using parts of a line in a repeated style. For example, the most obvious one of these is the Charles Dickens one. Let's go back to that. "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times." That is almost repeating directly the whole line, just swapping the adjective best for the adjective worst, hugely changing the tone. So parallel phrasing is when a writer repeats parts of lines. We're going to explore 4 types of parallel phrasing here. The first type of parallel phrasing we're going to look at is what's called anaphora. Anaphora is the repetition at the beginning of lines. So take a moment, look at these 4 and see which ones are using anaphora, repetition at the start of lines. Pause this now and make your decision. Okay, welcome back. The ones which are using anaphora are these ones. Charles Dickens uses "it was the" in both of those. John F. Kennedy uses "ask something what." And in the Neil Armstrong one, it's "one small step, one giant leap." So the repetition there of "one" at the beginning creates anaphora, repetition at the beginning of lines. The opposite to anaphora is epiphora. This is repetition at the ends of parallel lines. So take a moment. Which ones are using epiphora, repetition at the ends of lines? Pause and decide. Okay, welcome back. The answers are these 2. So the national anthem repeats "our adjective queen," "our gracious queen," "our noble queen." So that's using direct epiphora there. Charles Dickens uses both anaphora and epiphora. He ends with "of times" and "of times." Now, it's something to look out for that writers and politicians and public speakers use a lot, anaphora and epiphora for effect. Let's deepen this and make it slightly more tricky. I'm going to introduce a 3rd type of parallel phrasing for you here. And this is what we call synonymous parallelism. Now, synonymous parallelism can be anaphora and it can be epiphora, so it's not really related to those. What synonymous parallelism means is that the 2 parallel statements are supportive of each other. They are saying the same thing, so it probably means a positive and a positive, or a negative and a negative. It does not mean when the writer changes from a positive to a negative, or from a negative to a positive. So the 2 parallel statements are supportive of each other. Which of these are using synonymous parallelism? Pause this and make your decision. Okay, welcome back. The 2 using synonymous parallelism are these 2. Neil Armstrong is suggesting not only is this a small step for man, but it's also a giant leap for mankind. The national anthem is entirely positive. Not only should "God save our gracious Queen," but the Queen should "long live our noble Queen." So synonymous parallelism, in this case, both offering positive and a positive. Let's look at our 4th and final type. It's what we call antithetical parallelism, also known as antithesis. You may remember this from studying Macbeth. Macbeth has a lot of antithesis. Antithetical parallelism, or antithesis, is the opposite of synonymous parallelism. The 2 parallel statements are working as opposites to each other. So this could mean a positive followed by a negative, or a negative followed by a positive. Make your decision which ones are using antithetical parallelism. Pause the screen, make your decision, and then press play. Okay, welcome back. And the ones which are using antithetical parallelism are JFK, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. What he's saying there is, don't be a scrounger on the country, go and help the country yourself. Charles Dickens, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Well, you can't get more opposite than that, can you? Even though he's using the same sentence structures. So, let's just recap. Parallel phrasing or parallelism. It's a device used by writers and public speakers, and it's often used for memorable effect and powerful effect. We have anaphora, the repetition at the starts of lines. We have epiphora, repetition at the ends of lines. We have synonymous parallelism, where the similar, complementary ideas are used in parallel structures. And we have antithetical parallelism or antithesis, when opposite ideas are used in parallel structures. Hope you found that helpful, hope you found it interesting, and I hope you can use it in your analysis, whether it's at top-end GCSE or at A-level. That's it from me. Bye.